feel like you have Tom Cruise who's like, "Yeah, I won. I made an argument." And then you have this beautiful speech from Dawson, like, bringing together the moralities and
Yes.
the essence of the movie. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise is like, "Ah!" Okay, welcome to Popcorn Moms, the podcast for parents who love their kids most but love movies first. We're your co-hosts, Stephanie.
And Netta, two movie lovers turned moms. Join us as we reconnect with the things that make us whole outside of parenthood, namely watching movies.
Mhm.
And today's movie is A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men is a 1992 American legal drama based on Aaron Sorkin's play from 1989. It was written by Sorkin, directed by Rob Reiner, and stars an ensemble cast including Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore, Kevin Bacon, and Kiefer Sutherland. The plot follows the court-martial of two U.S. Marines charged with the murder of a fellow Marine and the tribulations of their lawyers as they prepare for the case.
Yeah.
Anyways, this was Stephanie's pick. Steph, why did you choose this movie?
Yes. Okay, so I chose this movie in this instance because it was suggested by you that it was something you felt like. But secretly, I've been wanting to suggest this movie probably since week 4 of Movie Club. I've been wanting to suggest it for such a long time, and every time we were like wanting a Tom Cruise movie or a Tom Cruise adjacent movie or like a 90s drama thriller, whatever, I wanted to pick it because it's so friggin' good, but it never felt right because maybe we wanted to watch something new or whatever. But the stars aligned. You suggest it. I am always in the mood to watch it because it is phenomenal. And that's why I chose it. And so we'd both seen it before. But I'd like to know, Netta, how did you feel about it upon this watch? And how many times had you seen it in the past?
I mean, I think when in the like heyday of it, so the 90s, I
Really?
watched it quite a few times. I mean, this was like such a classic.
Mhm.
eh, But it has been a very long time. Like,
Oh,
I'm not sure if I've watched it as an adult.
no way. Okay, this just got way more interesting then.
So good.
Right?
Knew it was good. I had, I wasn't really worried about it not being good. I didn't remember how good it is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited that you have more of a fresh perspective on it. Because for me, it's one of my favorite movies, but I watch it like every 18 months or every 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, like, I've seen this movie so many times. Like, I had half a page of notes written down before I even watched the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's one of those movies. I have my, like, list of rewatchable movies, right, that I've talked about. It's on there. Like, it's just so good. Like, it can be consumed over and over again. I think the first time I saw it was maybe in the later 90s, and I remember not understanding fully what was going on with, like, the fence line and blah, blah, blah. So it's been nice to watch it as an adult, but I don't have that feeling where I've stepped away from it and returned to it, but every time it's better, better.
Which is like the best thing, right? When like each time you watch something, it's like a little bit different. You
Yeah,
notice something
you pick
a little bit
out
new.
yeah, like this time, I completely have never noticed before that, it was written by sorry, the play was, like Aaron Sorkin's play. I was like, "What?" And then written by him, and then I was like, "Oh, it makes sense why it's so good." Like, why the dialogue is so, like, witty and clever and banter and, like, well thought out, and then it, like, reads as a play too. Like, you can see how it could play out as a play, and then, like, the end at the end is just cornball, but, like, I
Yeah.
love it.
Mhm.
I actually was musing, like, like, the story and everything holds up, but, like, in the end, it gets a bit, like, cheesy in a way, but I think that leans more to the idea that it's like a play.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that the movie held up as well as it did is um I don't know, I just feel like it is so 90s in the sense that it's like
Mhm.
fun and
It's
interesting kind of thriller and blah blah blah, but it's got like just enough substance to
Mhm.
make it feel like there's something really interesting going on here at the same
Yeah,
time,
100%. I think
right?
it's
And it's
more sorry, go on.
sometimes I think you watch movies and you're like, "Oh, is this like actually a very serious movie that was taken in a weird direction that doesn't match it?" But that's
Mm.
not the feeling here at all.
We've come across this a couple times where there's, like, a very like, the content of the movie's very serious. right? Like, it sounds serious when you read, like, the plots, 2 Marines charged with murder, oh my god. Like, but there's something about it that it's still fun and light and, like, an easy watch in a way. We've talked about that before with, another Tom Cruise movie, I think. Like, there's a charisma he brings.
Yeah.
Remember this? I
Was
can't
it
remember.
Jerry
I
Maguire?
think it might have been Jerry Maguire. Like, there's
Yeah.
just a charisma he brings to the table that makes things light inherently. Like, he can make it feel, I don't know, easier to digest perhaps. Like, other dramatic movies are so serious the whole time.
That's the thing, it just totally I had completely forgotten that it was funny at
Yeah,
all.
it was so funny. I think
It's
this
really
time I
funny.
found it to be the most funny
Yeah.
yet. Like, there was
Yeah.
such good lines. I started writing some down and then I stopped because it was taxing. But, like, Tom Cruise's character is quite funny and witty. The kind of back and forth he has with, his buddy is
With Sam,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, with Sam, and then even Kevin Bacon's character.
Mhm.
Um, Jack Nicholson is also phenomenal, and though he's not, like, maybe supposed to be funny, haha, like, he says things that are funny, like, when he's like, "Hey, go, and then train the guy, and I'm gonna hold you responsible, and if it doesn't work out, I will kill you." Like, it's hilarious, but it's not, like, funny, haha. It's, like, so over the, like, there's just, I
Yeah.
don't know how to explain about it. There's something about the way he talks that, like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a type of humor that's, like you're saying, it's not laugh out loud funny, but it
No.
is, um he's meant to be amusing as a character, as well as terrifying. He's amusing and terrifying.
Yes, Netta! Like, some people are funny and some people are amusing because they're
Mm,
characters, and he's
mm,
a terrifying, amusing man. I was just gonna say, every character in this movie is also, like, very, like, their own character.
yeah.
Cruz is very is kind of like bumbling boy genius, quirky, charismatic type thing, and then he kinda comes into his own, and, like, Demi Moore is kind of like the straight shooter and the rule. Everybody has their fun thing.
Actually, just thinking of that, like, one thing that, occurred to me watching it, like, there are some lines that get repeated through different characters, like, the same wording comes out of different characters' mouths, like, this thing
Mm.
of, describing Marines as, "These are the guys up against the wall." I
Yeah,
think that was the
yeah,
wording. Or, "I save lives," or what
yeah.
like, just certain things that, like, stood out, I think, as I watch it because those were important in the courtroom scene at the end, like,
Mhm.
they're such memorable lines, like, in that context, so then when they come up throughout the movie, it's really interesting, I don't know, there's a kind of
Yeah.
a buildup.
Yeah, I don't know if this is what you're kind of like leaning into, but, like, there are some, like, through lines, right, that we kind of get lightly at the beginning, and then as we get further, I think, into, like, the Marine, like, the Guantanamo Bay Marine culture, they start to become more obvious. So, like,
Mhm.
this idea about, like, the code, right? Unit
Oh,
Core God Country, that's what it is.
yes, or
Unicorn God
yes.
Country, and, like, that's kinda mentioned at, like, at the beginning, it's like they're fanatical, and then Dawson's like, "This is my code," and he says it very, like, honorably and, like, gently, but then we start to get into it, and then we see, not Markinson, Kendrick, Kiefer Sutherland's character, when he's on the stand, he's like a lunatic. When he is like, "I only recognize this law, and blah, 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 blah." Like, you really start to get it, and then same with Jack Nicholson, like, it's just leaned into more, so you like, it all builds to make that ending that much more impactful.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like, you really get a sense of the Marines specifically. I think, you could say the military generally, but here really specifically the Marines and specifically the Marines at Guantanamo Bay,
Yeah,
of that as a world unto itself that has its own
culture.
way of operating that operates on these principles and these values and this worldview and this code and this way of conducting yourself and this way of relating to others. I think you're right. One of the things that this movie does is build us up as the audience and our understanding of how
Yeah.
serious that is. Like, we start out we're Tom Cruise, right? Where he's
Yeah.
just kind of like a code, okay, I
Mhm,
guess. Fine,
mhm.
who
Yeah,
cares?
like, sure, cool.
Sure, but we have Demi Moore really, who understands that culture much, much more,
Mm.
who is dragging us along into understanding that more from that kind of inside perspective. We've got Sam, who's, like, translating some of
Yeah. Yeah.
the jargon and
Mhm.
explaining things to us, and we've got these characters like Jack Nicholson's character, Kiefer Sutherland, the 2 Marines who are on trial, who are like, who embody that code in different ways,
Yes.
and, like, and so it builds up in terms of, like, this is something we're taking very seriously, and then that clash at the end,
Mhm.
it's like, whew,
Yeah, you see it and, like,
whoa,
whoa. She
whoa.
said, "Whoa." You see it I think, like, 2 things I was gonna say. I think in that clash at the end when you really see it, and, like, this idea of, like, that code being the prevailing law for a lot of people, like, Jack Nicholson doesn't even understand that he's done something wrong, right? Like, he shouts it out, and then he's, like, in disbelief that he is now going to be hauled away because in his mind, he followed the code. That is the law. That's how you keep people alive, and that's how you keep people safe. But that's not the world that the rest of the world or the rest of America operates in. And I think the thing that they do also to add kind of like gravitas to this idea of this code is I think they do a really good job of like distinguishing between, like you said, like the subculture of not only the Marines, but the Marines in Guantanamo. Like, I think Tom Cruise is talking to Sam, and Sam's saying something about like they shouldn't have killed him, blah, blah, blah. And Tom Cruise is like, we have marching bands and softball games. They have to wear camo or they're going to get shot. So and that kind of idea comes up a couple times, right? Of like yes, we're all in the Navy or we're all in the Marines or whatever, but that looks very different based on where we are. And so I
Mhm.
think they do a really good job of showing that as well.
Yeah, I feel like Sam so, okay, we have this, like, trio of lawyers where
Mhm.
Tom Cruise is lead counsel on this.
Mhm.
Demi Moore has, like, bullied or
Weaseled her way in.
hustled her way in, which if I mean, we have to talk about her
Oh,
character, who I love,
yes, phenomenal.
and Sam, who is a coworker of, Tom Cruise and gets put on as, like, support counsel,
Mhm.
whatever the term is. Um, and I feel like Sam and Demi are there as kind of like advocates for these different perspectives on the case, right?
Mhm.
Demi Moore is like very sympathetic
Yeah.
to the Marine. She understands what this world looks like more so from the inside.
Mhm.
And she is kind of looking at them through the point of view of this code, right? Or through the
Mhm.
lens
Yeah.
of this code.
Yeah.
And Sam is looking at them like he's, committed to being their lawyer and blah, blah, blah. But
Mhm.
he's looking at them and making his own judgment based on the sort of the values or the code that exists outside of the Marines and more just in like American society at
Like
large,
life.
which are equally given weight.
They're like
Like
equally understandable.
yeah, I mean, for Sam, they were bullies. They followed immoral orders and picked on the weak.
Yeah.
And this is opposed to this set of American values that,
Mhm.
like, he is looking at them through. She's looking at more through that internal code of, like, you are part of a collective, you are putting your life on the line. The person beside you is putting their life on the line. They're also
Mhm.
putting your life on the line. It just sort of these two sides of, like, American values, I guess, and I feel like I don't know, it's just interesting that, like, Demi Moore and Sam are, like, these kinda 2 sides of it.
Yeah, I think they bring, like, a really good balance, and then you can see Tom Cruise kind of, like, it's interesting, I'm kinda seeing, like, he never really has a strong opinion one way or the other. He's just trying
Mm-mm.
to wade through the facts and figure out, like, what would be kind of, like, right or fair. I think, like, from an audience perspective, at least, I feel like both Sam, Joe I feel like we're calling him
No,
Sam and
yes.
Demi.
Yes, that's what I wanna say too, but yes, Demi Moore's character, Joe,
Joe,
and
both of
Sam, yeah.
them, I think, are right, right? Like, I think it's interesting because I think Sam is coming from the perspective of the bullied kid. Like, he himself was probably the bullied kid and is sad that this kid has been bullied and is now dead. Joe sees larger institutional problems that have caused that, and so she doesn't see these 2 as being taken down as, like, the fall guys for a bigger issue as fair. So I think both are right, and that's why I think how it ends is, like, great because like, these guys don't deserve to go back. Like, they still did this terrible thing, right? They still like, even though it was like, an order and they had to do it, like, I guess they could have said, "No, someone else might have done it," whatever, but, like, they still did it, so you should probably not be the Marines anymore, but they're not convicted of murder, and Jack Nicholson is held on account in this bigger system.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that about Sam. This character is
Yeah.
Jewish.
Oh,
Like
yes.
he has like a Jewish last name, blah blah blah, and he
Yeah.
brings up the Nazis as like this thing of
Yeah.
just following orders. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just like the shorthand for like why we don't just follow orders. And so I think that like he's looking at this in terms of um you can't what meaning is there to morality and to accountability and to the law and to whatever if your personal responsibility is just gone
Mhm.
because of you were just following orders or you're just part of this machine, so to speak. And if you agree to kind of subject your uh moral judgment to that. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like but yeah, I feel like you have these two sides that are complementary to each other, but in this
Mhm.
movie this is about an instance where those two sides come into conflict. And you're so right about Tom Cruise because normally I feel like you would say, okay, Tom Cruise, he's the guy in the middle of all this. He's like the lead character, he's the star. He's going to be like the synthesis of these two ideas. But like he's not. He's not.
No.
He's the law, right?
His quest, like, I think it's quite like, Sam is, I think, quite conflicted about representing them because he doesn't really agree with the actions they took, and he's like, "But I'm a lawyer and this is my job, fine." Whereas I think to me, Joanne is very invested in, like, helping and saving them and this and the other. And getting to that bigger truth, and I think that Tom Cruise, it's like he's taking this on as his own personal journey. Like, "I'm going to challenge myself to stand in this courtroom," and like Demi says, like, "Make an argument and see where that goes." And then it's like he's pushed and pushed to, like, actually be a lawyer and find the truth. I was gonna say, though, on the note of, like, this 2 sides and this idea about following orders, how do you then feel about Dawson's little speech at the end about, like, what we did was wrong, we were supposed to stand up for people like him? Do you feel like it, like, marries kind of both ideas
I
well?
I yeah, I was
Mhm,
thinking that, like, I was thinking,
mhm.
like, actually, Dawson, who even though the 2 Marines that are being charged are, like, at the center of the story, they don't get a lot of lines or screen
No,
time,
which is
poor
probably for
guys.
the best.
But but who they are really does come through, and Dawson, like, one of the that speech that he gives where he says, "No, it's right that we can't go back to the Marines, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah," even though he's so in line with, like,
I know.
the code, but then you also hear through testimony that, like, he has put his own judgment on things at
Yeah,
times. Anyways, for him at the end to say, "No, what we did was wrong," yeah, I think he's the he's, like, that perfect bringing together of these 2 ideas, but, like, only after bringing them together imperfectly, I guess, because he did accidentally kill that guy.
I know. It's
Santiago.
oh,
Poor
rip.
Santiago.
I know.
He shouldn't have
Um
been there.
I know. I was gonna say it's like I wasn't laughing, but you're right. Like he does bring it together in this beautiful synthesis at the end. I feel like you have Tom Cruise who's like, "Yeah, I won. I made an argument," and then you have this beautiful speech from Dawson, like bringing together the moralities and
Yes.
the essence of the movie. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise is like, "Ha!"
And you know what? Okay, okay. If we have this kind of thing going on
Duality.
with Sam and
Mhm.
Joe and them kind of representing these 2 things, and it's brought together by Dawson, I feel like then you get Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson, where Tom Cruise eventually, through his beautiful character arc and his story, he is like the law.
Mhm.
Where it's about
Yes.
the truth, and it's about procedure, and it's about what you can prove, and it's about the
Mhm.
story you can tell, it's about doing your best by your client, blah, 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 blah. And then you have Jack Nicholson, which is all about lawlessness, and really, it's more about being a king of your own kingdom. He is the king of the Guantanamo Bay
Yeah.
castle. I guess, and he is above the law, and Tom Cruise is about no, no one is above the law.
I know, it's interesting though. Okay, let me throw this out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I'm going with this necessarily, because I agree, like, Tom Cruise is more of that, like, and, like, the lawyer team is more about that kind of, like, individualistic, like, you did something
Yes.
wrong, you're going to be punished, blah, blah, blah. Jack Nicholson's perspective, yes, it's, like, very, like, dictator kingly of his whatever, but it is also this idea of, like, the greater good for the unit
Mm,
and the country, and, like, I don't I don't wanna say, like, I agree with him because, like, no, you can't just code red people and have them killed. If you're a leader, that's not how you should lead. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, when you look back in history at the, like, empires that had these amazing armies and this or that, like, they discarded the weak. Like, that's what they did. And so I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just trying to say, like, that's like, it's interesting because in his last speech, he's not 100% wrong. How he deals with it is completely incorrect by, like, today's standards, but this idea of, like, this person was not cut out to be there, and they needed to not be there, not wrong.
yeah, I think you're so right, and this just occurred to me while you were talking. One of the really good things about this movie, I think, why it works, is that the scope of the conspiracy was not like silly and big.
Yeah.
And
Ooh, wait, I just thought of a terrible way they could have done that if it was,
yes,
like,
yes.
a senator's child and, like, a there was, like, a love story and a this and that and a cover up and a murder by night. Oh, it would've been so bad.
War with Cuba. They're all
Oh,
on the verge of war with
what?
Cuba over this, like,
It's
shooting over the
the
line.
fence line shooting is oh god.
Yes.
Like, it could have been so, so, so bad.
Which actually going back to what you said before about it seeming like a play, it feels like this is the scope of a play.
What do you oh, yes.
Like, it makes more
Like
sense
s
as it
like tighter, like a
yeah,
tighter,
like
like,
a smaller
conflict. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Anyways,
It's
so yeah,
I have a
go ahead.
comment about that. No, I'll come back to it. You go. You go.
Oh god, I feel like we took a few turns. Where did we start? Right. One of the things that I think lends credibility to Jack Nicholson
Mhm.
and makes it possible for us to hear him and not just be like, "No,"
Mhm.
is that, like, he did not mean for Santiago to be killed.
Yes.
Jack Nicholson's way of dealing with Santiago is not, like, maniacally evil, it doesn't feel like. The cover
No.
up, throwing these 2 Marines under the bus, like, it definitely, puts his leadership abilities and his integrity and all of these things into question, blah, 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 but calling a code red did not mean ordering
Yeah.
these Marines to murder a fellow Marine. It
Mhm.
was ordering them to shave his head, and it's very scary, like, it's not right.
No, I was gonna say what's so interesting too about this is I was thinking through the movie, like, I feel so bad at times for Dawson and Downey specifically, because he just doesn't understand. And it's interesting because this idea that someone died has I never think to myself, like, I feel so bad for the kid who died. I feel so bad for his family. Like, that doesn't become the focus. So, like, you're right. Like, when we hear Nicholson give this huge speech, though it's like, "Whoa, this guy's intense," and that's an intense way, it's not like, repulsive, he's murdering people left, right, and center, like, in secret. Like, you're right, like, it's not this massive, wild conspiracy. It's like a common practice they employ to promote strength and coherence, and it went bad, and he's having to answer for that now.
And I guess it is I mean, there's a whole bunch of other questions that it then brings up around, like, they probably really should have just transferred him off the base, and,
Of
like, because
course!
this kid is not well, and, like, this
I
is
know,
not
that's
well like, and the fact that Jack Nicholson can pull all these strings and, change the flight logs
logs.
and
It
blah,
makes
blah,
the
like,
lights
it definitely
disappear.
it doesn't speak to a trustworthiness.
I was gonna say though, to your point, like, I think that's interesting though, because like, I don't wanna say we were just defending his character. We were not defending his character, but it's like, you're not necessarily made out to, like, think he's this maniacal murderer man, but I think, like, what we are kinda supposed to see is, like, his ego getting in the way of, like, humanity at times, right? So, like, this is
Mhm.
a kid who absolutely should have been transferred, but he was so annoyed that this person went around him that he was like, "This kid, keep him here, train him."
Yeah.
Whereas probably if Like, they had followed the normal chain of command, like, he might have been like, "Okay," but he just didn't wanna, like, accept weakness, he didn't wanna be, like, gone around on, you know?
Yeah, no, it was absolutely a challenge to his power,
Mhm.
and yeah, you see him being awful in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
The the
Oh
sexual
my
harassment
god.
quite cover it when he, is speaking to Demi. I think you get the sense of somebody who is,
Feels untouchable.
yeah, I think it's like a bad man, and the question is, do you think he is the right man
Mm.
for this type of position? I think the movie says no. He's not the right man.
You're like, "Yeah, big questions." The answer is obviously no.
When he is arrested at the end, I think it is, like, unambiguous, very straightforward, this is justice.
Yeah,
This is what should happen.
totally, yes.
And that, like, this guy's justification and Jack Nicholson's kind of view on things, it's like there's this code, and is Jack Nicholson the correct steward of this code? And it is
That's,
saying,
like, a
"No,
really good one. The answer is no,
no."
not at all. No, I think you are correct in that, like, they're like we said, like, this idea of, like, the Nazis and orders and all of that stuff, like, they're, like, putting him in that leadership position, and how
Mm.
he wields that power is not okay, and, like, I think his testimony around, like, orders, like, what people say what I do, like, he is on a power trip like no other, and that can breed a lot of, like, evil.
Well, I think it is a fair question of this movie to say, well, what kind of person should do this job? Like,
Not Tom
who
Cruise.
not Tom Cruise, not anybody else. I
Maybe
guess
Markinson.
Maybe Markinson, but he's too weak. I think
Oh.
actually, Dawson, right?
I know, I was
Who
just
is
gonna say Dawson. For sure.
say more.
No, I was just gonna say when it's like, who could do this job? When we look at the movie, like, probably the only other person who could be in that position is Dawson and, like, wield it properly. Like, I love the, like, low key throws to his character that we get. Like, we
Yeah.
kinda get this very stern, like, stoic, whatever. He obviously has a ton of integrity because he doesn't wanna lie and say he did it. He's risking going to jail for the rest of his life. He recognizes he's responsible for a man that is dead, even if he was following orders. He's not ratting anybody out, like, he waits till questions are asked, and then we hear about how he broke orders and snuck a man food and water because that was, like, the morally right thing to do, so we hear about that, which is like, "Oh, this is a good man of strong character." Then we hear about how everyone's afraid of him because he's well respected and strong and a leader amongst his people, so, like, yeah, put him in charge. Why not?
Yeah. But then he gets spat out. He doesn't
I
last. He
know,
can't
washed out.
he can't he can't get to the top. The people who should be in those positions can't get there, and
Because it's
that's
also political.
so much. Yeah.
This is I feel like one of those cases where, like, the people who are actually suited for the job are not in those jobs because it's political, and they're the people for those jobs because they don't want those jobs because 'cause they're not interested in the political side of things, right? Like, we even see that scene where, like, Jack Nicholson's talking to Markinson about how they entered everything at the same time and came up through the same time, but Jack Nicholson, like, skyrocketed, and he's, like, connected to all the political people. He's meeting a congressman, he's blah, 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 blah. Whereas, like, Markinson has just, like, stayed the course and, like, done his job. He's not, like, a leader per se.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. These
Yes.
leadership roles in America are
Yeah.
tied up in politics.
Oh, yeah. Everywhere, everywhere. I will defend America and say not just in America.
You know what? That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. But I do think that, like, I I don't know, and this was something that Eric said, like, was there ever a better time to be American than in the '90s? Like, this movie was made, like, peak America, and, like,
America. I know, even I'm like, "Ooh, America."
how what a wonderful America. Nobody's above the law, not even Jack Nicholson in Guantanamo Bay.
It was a magical time where everything came to light. I was going to say, while we were talking about the military,
Yeah.
can we just talk about how much, like, I love, like, military movies? Like, I love both maybe you didn't know this about me. Like, I love, like, law courtroom drama movies, like, so much, but, like, marrying that with, like, military culture, I'm in heaven. I love it. I love movies about, like, soldiers, military, Navy SEALs are the best. Like, I love it so much, and I don't know why, but I am, like, here for it.
Okay, I know you just said you don't know why, but I really wanna know why.
I don't know. I think there's something about, like, it just is, like, so interesting to me, I think, as, like, a subculture. Like, it's a very specific type of person who goes down this road and, like, ascribes to this lifestyle. And then I think there's just, like, I'm so impressed that there's people who want to do that. My favorite or anything about, like, Navy SEALs and, like, the secret ops, this, that, and the other. I'm obsessed because I think I'm just in awe of these humans that can, like, operate like just apex physical specimens of humanity to like protect us and do the things that other people won't. It's like interesting to me. It harkens back to an older time in humanity. And I think like I'm such a history buff and have such a reverence for that stuff. Like for me, it harkens back to like Rome and like the special praetorians, the elite, and like Sparta. Like they were born and bred to be soldiers. And like even before that, right? Like who dominated? It was like the biggest, the baddest, the meanest. Like you needed people like that. Look at like the Vikings and stuff. Like and like it's just interesting that like that type of person and like physical being, we've like funneled them into like these very specific like military-esque bodies where they can thrive. There's still a need for those type of people,
Yeah.
which is like interesting. And so I guess I love Hollywoodized versions of those people. I don't want to talk like I actually know anything about it, but I like the Hollywood versions. I watch documentaries on Navy SEALs all the time. I'm like very into it as like a sub like also from a psychological standpoint, the things they do and like how they I don't know, it's kind of otherworldly. It's so different from the lives that most people live. It's just interesting. So like movies and stuff, I just think it's like such a separate world, you know? So watching movies about that type of stuff is just so cool.
It is very cool.
I know.
I
Do you love these type of movies as well?
So I will say, growing up, I did not.
I feel like this is the same tone when I asked you about, like, action movies. You were like, "Well."
Yeah, I think it has. Okay. I think it has taken me a while in life to see what is interesting about war. And just bear with me for a second. Obviously, wars are very important
Yes.
and blah, blah, blah. And I understand why we study them and why they are waged and all this kind of stuff. But just like as a thing that a random person would be interested in, I just haven't really gotten it until relatively recently. I think what military movies do is they take that part of war that is about like individuals being pushed to the edge of what
Mhm.
humans are capable of for good and for bad and really zeroes in on that but for an individual story rather than like the kind of large scale look at it and I think you see it here to an extent like that's not really entirely what's going on in A Few Good Men, but I think like it takes a fairly ish stakes, potentially low stakes situation,
Mhm.
but like ups it and ups it and ups it in
Mhm.
terms of like what is riding on it and what it represents and
Yeah.
what's in conflict here. So that by the end it just like again that scene.
I know, it's so, like, rattling, and they do to your point, they do such a good job of doing it so gradually, and, like, the way they kind of piece it together or Tom Cruise's character pieces it together, like, he could choose to have this over and done with tomorrow, get a plea bargain, great, 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 or he could choose to go deeper. And then he's like, "Okay, I'll go deeper." And then he's like, "Also, this is weird. So I'm gonna go deeper and deeper and deeper." And then it's about like uncovering what is really going on here. And so the stakes get high. And then he has personal stakes as well. Like the idea of accusing Jack Nicholson incorrectly. Like, I love how like, that's obviously a thing, but, like, I love how they tie that in and make it feel so dangerous for him to do that. So much so that I love when he's, like, shaking, like, he takes the drink of water before he, like, goes for him, and he's, like, shaking. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, they make it feel like there's really, like, big stakes here.
Yes. And I think they keep an eye on the stakes correctly. Like the order of importance here in terms of what's at stake has remained the whole time. One, the
These 2
accused
guys' lives, yeah.
and the defendants, then his like potential legal
Standing.
troubles and fallout, and then his legacy basically,
Mhm.
especially like as the son of
Yeah, the
a
fog I love
legendary.
that layer. That
Yeah.
layer is so good. Adds
Mhm.
more stakes, right? Like, it just adds this, like, invisible figment that you're just, like he's chasing, and, like, so there's the personal stakes of, like, accusing this person of this, then there's, like, his own reputation, he's got this reputation in the office. Demi Moore keeps telling him that he's so good, so he's starting to be like, "I have to live up to this," and then you throw in the dead father who had this amazing legacy, and, like, I love that everybody knows that, and you get hints of people mentioning it everywhere, like, everybody knows who this guy is. Everyone thinks he's amazing, and Tom Cruise can't even find a pen.
And I do just in general really like the trope of the person who looks like they're slacking, who is
Oh!
actually super competent and
Oh
really
my
on.
god!
I
I
love
made
that.
an what did I wrote? Oh, I love the secret genius trope is what I
Yeah.
wrote. Like, this
Yeah.
idea that, like, "Oh, I'm a bubbling idiot, but wait, I know everything."
Or I'm a janitor, but wait, I'm a
Yeah.
math genius.
I'm just a janitor. No, I'm a math genius.
Yeah.
What I
Yeah.
love about this one, though, I think they do it well in that, like, he's obviously someone who never had to try very hard and just was so charismatic and lovely that he's, like, below and through, and he's really good with people. Demi Moore calls him on it, right? And then he's actually faced with the idea of, like, if I can marry, like, all of these innate skills I have with some actual procedural knowledge, like, what can happen there? And so
Mhm.
he's actually challenged, right? Like, he has to work for it. Probably the first time he's had to work for anything, which is cool.
Can we talk about Demi Moore slash Joe?
Yes. Slash Joe, we must. I was so interested in it to ask you your opinion of her as our lead female in the movie, and you
Yeah.
always have such good takes on women in film.
I love having takes on women, for sure.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Hit me.
I love her.
She's the
I love
best.
her. I mean, I love that we start with her.
Yeah.
I love that, like, in that first scene where she's asking to be put on counsel for this case, and we see her practicing it, and then she does it, and it doesn't go super well, but she does
No.
not break eye
No.
contact.
She's like
She sticks with it. I
Mhm.
was like, "Yes,
Yeah.
thank you." And I loved there's so many things, but one thing that I really appreciated was, like so she has to, basically, like, throw herself onto this case and, like, just
Mhm.
kind of forces her way in. And she does so by befriending
I
effectively or
know.
building a relationship with the aunt
Mhm.
of one of the accused and suggesting to her that, like, "Oh, maybe you would feel better if I was,
Yes, it's super clever.
representing your client," and gets her to sign a thing saying, that now Demi Moore is, on the case.
Mhm.
I just love that because I feel like very often what happens is, like, the female character off screen somewhere manages to set things up so she gets what she wants, and that's great. And then, she's telling the male lead, "Oh no, I'm on the case too now." And he's like,
Yeah.
"How
Dun,
did
dun,
that
dun.
happen?" And she says something like, "I have my ways." And basically, I'm just like, it just seems like women have this ability to just get what they want
Yeah.
somehow, and I just feel like I'm missing out on this magical ability to get that.
Yeah, like, what are
I'm
women
like,
doing
what
behind the
what are women
curtains?
doing? What are women doing? What am I not doing? I
Mm,
also want to be able to get
have
what I
your
want and
ways.
then be smug about it. That would be great. But with Demi Moore, it's like, that's what she did. I could do that. I know how to do that.
Yeah, like,
Right? And
befriend
that
somebody.
makes sense. And I think you see her just having to prove herself, having to push herself into situations, not being taken seriously. And I think it does really speak well to Tom Cruise's character that I think a turning point for him where he starts to take things more seriously and really starts to take Demi more seriously and really look at Jessup
Mm,
as, like, an adversary, is when Jack Nicholson says the
yeah.
gross thing to Demi Moore, and she does not break eye contact.
No, I
She
was
does
gonna
not
bring
lose
that up.
sight.
Phenomenal. She,
Girl.
like
Oh
I
my
know,
god.
she I was gonna say, like, even after she goes in and she has to be put on the case, and when Tom Cruise and Sam show up, she is not threatened by this. Like, she's just so strong. Like, she's never kind of, like, feeling, like, submissive to the male presence, and I was gonna bring up when Jack Nicholson said this, like, she does not break. I really like I don't know if this is good for feminism or bad for feminism, but, like, I don't know. I love in movies female characters and male characters that are just so well developed as characters and as people that they could be either gender. Like if you think
Mm,
about this movie, her character could easily be a man and like almost nothing would change. And like I love that. Is that good or bad for
I don't know. I think it's fine.
It's fine for feminism. It's, like, nice to just see, like, a strong, competent woman
Yeah.
be a strong and she, like, asks him out on a date. I wanted to ask you how you felt about that element of the story. I think they have amazing chemistry. I'm here for it. It's not necessary, but why do I like it more? I don't know.
It's great.
Yeah, you like it too?
Yeah. I think it adds to it.
Yeah.
Nothing I mean, they go on a date. They don't even, like, I don't know, kiss or
I
anything, but
love
that's
that they don't kiss at the end because they could've, but why? Why add that, though?
you tell me.
No, you don't add that.
No.
No, it's like all these movies always have people kissing at the end. And I feel like in a lot of ways it makes sense. In this story, I think it would have been an insane choice because they they've both demonstrated themselves to be incredible professionals.
Mm.
So the idea of sharing a smooch in this courtroom would be insane. Like a kiss?
I do love that she asks him out, feels very in character. You get the sense from her, like, she's not batting an eye when Jack Nicholson talks to her like that because she's heard it before,
Yeah.
and she's still there, she's still risen through the ranks, and she's, like, stubborn, she does things properly, she does things fully, she's got a passion for justice.
Yes.
So, like, Demi Moore specifically, because I feel like she is I mean, she's quite feminine in the sense that
Mm,
she's, like, very beautiful
she's
and,
so
like
gorgeous.
oh my god, and, like, she has a kind of, like, calmer energy and a blah, 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 but, like, there's also a certain gravity, and I don't know if it's just because, like, her voice is a little lower, like, something as, like, just surface level as that, but I think it just, like, her whole vibe is of, like you're saying, professionalism and
Yeah.
competence and drive um and a sense of, like, fighting for the weak among those who have to be strong all the time.
Mm,
And she's, like, in this culture, in these institutions that, punish her for the things that she brings to it. Um, yeah, I don't know.
strength. I'd like you to remember all of these comments and pretend that you said them leading up to whenever we watched G.I. Jane. I'd like
Sorry?
you to just remember all of this conversation and these comments and everything and like pin them in your mind for when eventually we watch G.I. Jane.
Okay, alright. Maybe I'll just choose it now, I don't know.
No, you had a movie pick for our first for our
I
first
know, but maybe this is our first episode, I mean, seriously.
Oh god.
Okay, I have a question for you because there's one scene I don't understand in this movie.
Please, because there's one scene that took me years to understand, so I'm wondering if it's the one you're gonna say. Go.
So the movie starts with Santiago's death.
Yeah, I know exactly
Yes.
what you're saying.
And then there's a scene after Santiago's death where Jack Nicholson and Kiefer
Kendrick?
Sutherland and the
Yep.
other guy who is a very good
Mark
actor, but I don't know his
JT
name,
JT Walsh?
JT Walsh,
Yep.
are chatting about what to do about Santiago as if he's still alive. And I don't get it. What's happening there?
This scene drives me crazy. Someone fell asleep on the editing floor. So, like, it took me years to understand this, that it's not like a current state conversation. It's like a flashback scene, but it's not set up as such. So it's incredibly confusing. It's supposed to give us the idea of what went on, right? That he wasn't going to be transferred so that we can know that he wasn't gonna be transferred, that Jack Nicholson took a hard line, but this idea of if he ordered the code red or not was still ambiguous.
Oh,
It's
right.
just it gives us enough to be like, "Ooh, there's things we know that they can find out," but not too much that we're still very invested in the outcome of the movie.
I did not get it.
It's
Um,
confusing, eh?
yeah.
It's
Okay,
the
so
worst.
if we treat it as a flashback, it makes sense.
Yes, it's a flashback. I know,
Great.
like, for years, I thought they were, like, staging that conversation post his death. Like,
Yeah.
it took me so long to understand it's a flashback scene.
Okay.
And I don't
Great.
know, I thought about a lot about this while watching it yesterday. I wrote it down as a note too, like, where I would put it, that scene, with
Ooh, where would you
respect.
put it?
I'd put it a lot earlier than when it appears. Or I'd put at the bottom of the screen, like, 7 days prior, and then you see the scene, and then you see them rolling up to Cuba, like, in the present moment. Um, because I think, like, where it's placed is good amongst the rest of the context of the movie that we have, but they just need to let us know that
Yeah.
it's a flashback.
Yeah.
Like, or make it in black and white or blurry or something, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever movie
Confusing.
magic they have to tell us this is a flashback.
There's
Yeah.
so many ways, so many ways in which movies can do this, and they chose to do none of them. This would probably
Yeah.
be my only criticism of the whole movie.
That's the thing, by the end of it, I was like, "Is this a perfect movie?" But then I thought about that scene and I'm like,
Nope.
I don't think it can be now.
It was so, so close. I wonder if there's a director's cut somewhere where that scene is placed elsewhere.
Who doesn't like this movie? Does anybody not like this movie?
Oh, everyone loves A Few Good Men, and just so many amazing movies from this era. The '90s was such a good time for stories, actors, movie making. Like, when we pulled it up and it was like, "Oh, if you like this, here's others." And it was like banger after banger after I was like, "Oh my god." Like, so good.
This isn't all of it, obviously, but, like, one thing that has changed that other people have pointed out, I'm just parroting other people, but I agree with this. I think this is true. That, like, this thing of, like, the mid-budget movie, not your indie film,
Mhm.
but also not your blockbuster. So,
Mhm.
like, a studio film that is, like, uh, I don't know, not a huge amount of money. It's not
Mhm.
Marvel, it's not whatever. Those became much more scarce at a certain point. We need so many more of those.
Yes. Going around maybe special effects as well. Like, the '90s was kind of pre-CGI.
I think it was early CGI, so I think it was like, um I could be wrong about this, but I feel like in the '90s, what you had was, like, CGI being used in smaller ways, which I think is kind of what we're getting back to, like, whenever there's a new technology in movies, and it gets to a certain, like, point where it's actually, like, good now.
Mm.
Um, it gets used, like, a ton for, like, 10 years, and then it kinda calms
Yeah.
down. So, like, when sound was first,
Mm.
introduced to movies, like, not too much later, you got musicals.
Yeah.
I think that CGI kind of had a similar thing where it was introduced when it was first being used, it wasn't, super great, so it was kind of used here and there, more complimentary.
Mhm.
And then things kind of advanced to the point where you could do, like, these really, really amazing things with it. And so you got, like, 10 years of, like, huge Marvel movies being, like, absolutely dominating.
Mhm.
And I think maybe, I don't know, maybe now that'll kind of calm down, you'll get it
I
more
think
integrated.
so.
I feel like maybe AI is the next thing where, like, I think you have
Ooh.
seen it be used quite effectively, I think, in some cases. Like, I know in The Brutalist, they used, like, some voice AI things to basically round out the accents of some of
Interesting,
the actors,
cool.
which I think worked super well. So I think that's, like,
Mm.
a very, like, sparing but thoughtful and, like, good use of
Mhm.
AI.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if, like, AI gets to a point where it's more sophisticated, if it's used in, like, much bigger ways for a while,
Yeah.
and then it kind of, calms down a bit, and, like, 10 years later, it's goes back to just kind of being integrated and,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
in, more normal ways or whatever, but Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. There's always the big like, "Huh," and then it goes back to like practical effects. That's what it's called. I've been trying to think about that for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Practical effects were like big in the 80s and 90s 'cause that's when they had. Then CGI comes in, it dominates, and then all of a sudden movies start coming out with practical effects, and it's like, "Ooh, they use practical effects for this? It's like, bravo." And like,
Mm,
yeah, the same will come like around for like every new technology or every new thing. There's like the influx, and then it's like, "Oh, they didn't do that? Good for them."
true. Yeah, no, that is super interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
What a great movie.
Ugh. The best. The best. So good. Just it's one of the only dramas I think I can watch over and over and over again because it does have a lightness to it, as we discussed.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so
What are
what
you
are you no,
No, what are
this
you
was
in the
m
mood for now?
oh, yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah. Sorry, I was asking you because it's your pick.
I know, but, that's, you know how this works.
Incorrect.
I don't
I
need to.
know. I know.
It's late. I honestly, as we were talking about, like, the whatever the fuck whatever we were just talking about, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm losing the ability
Fading.
to put together a
Fading.
sentence."
I know, I'm sorry we talked about things unrelated to this movie for
No,
so long.
not at all. I love it.
I know. What am I in the mood for next? Well, you said you had an idea of what you wanted the next one to be.
I did. I'm not as wed to it, but,
Oh,
um, yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious. Like, what are you in the mood for? What are you feeling right now? Thanks for joining us here at Popcorn Moms. If you like what you heard, we'd really appreciate your support. Subscribe to the show, rate and review us, and most importantly, share it with someone you know. Thanks for listening.